All right, today's guest is a true multi-talent in and outside of the cage. He's a head coach of Fight Science MMA, where he's built a reputation for developing fighters to the highest level. But that's not all. He's also a comedian and filmmaker, blending wit and creativity, storytelling. Coach, creator, and entertainer, all in one. Our guest today, Ian Harris.
Ian.
What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Finally, we made it happen.
I know, finally. What don't you do?
Let's see. Oh, one thing I don't do is not throw a fit if I lose. That's keep my cool. I don't keep my cool. That's the one thing I don't
You know
do.
what? You guys are, you guys are very mature, responsible men, but I think sometimes you lose this cool a little bit too. But I think that's a part of having passion and caring about what you do and what's going on, right?
Yeah. Although I'm going to be honest. I mean, maybe this is me being delusional, but I truly believe this in my heart that I have a reputation for doing that, but I really don't think I do that when it's not deserved, because there's been multiple times, good example, in a UNF cage, I believe it was UNF.
Here we go, Ryan.
Where somebody, where my guy, I thought lost and won. And I went over to the other coach and said, and the other fighter and my guy. And I said, you lost that fight. Went over to the other guy and went, you won that fight. Your guy won that fight. We can run it back. And I've had multiple times where my guy, this last weekend in another show, in a different show, my guy lost. And he shouldn't have lost. He was, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not to disparage the other guy. My guy was a better fighter.
Yeah.
And just didn't, he mentally didn't show up.
Yeah.
And did everything wrong. And afterward, I was like, you lost. Like, he lost the decision. And I didn't throw a fit. I didn't think, but I'm like, but I have multiple people over years go, commissioners and refs and all of a sudden people going, how do your guys your guy won that fight? How do your guys always get screwed? So when it's happened so many times, after a while, when I go in there, I'm like, there's no way you won all 3 rounds. And then they're like, all 3 rounds, the other guy, I'm like, come on. It makes me nuts. That's all.
Dude, like, I feel for you because I agree with you, actually.
You know, when there's a close decision happening and Ian walks in the cage, I do get a little scared. I'm like,
oh, I look at like some of the commissioners go,
it's
please, is he not going to play? And I usually go, what the? And they're like, calm down.
But I don't mind it so much, to be honest with you,
Right.
because it's coming. You're very passionate. You're very outspoken, but you're not disrespectful. You don't cross that line.
Well, thank you.
With the the judges or anybody else. But no, you have been on the wrong end of a few, in my opinion, too.
You.
No, seriously. And I just like, that's when I always talk to the fighters, like, don't leave it in the hands of the judges. And again, I always say it's easier said than done.
Totally.
But again, the judges are humans too.
Of course.
The refs are humans.
And the angle is different. And the crowd plays that's the one thing that drives me crazy. It probably drives you guys more crazy as promoters, unless I'm completely naive and there is some sort of deep state in the fighting thing. But you always hear people, go, oh, so-and-so paid off the judges. I'm like, I've known these judges, for some of them, for 20 years. They're not getting paid off by anybody.
No.
And most of the time the promoters don't care. I do know promoters that do care. I'm sure in the UFC, I'm sure Dana White wants certain people to win more than others. But is Dana White paying off Mike Beltran? I just don't. There's just no way I buy that in my life. There's just no way. But people think that's a thing.
Well, I think there's inherent quote unquote bias, right?
For sure.
Like some people draw more to the ground game or the striking or this or that.
Right.
Like Ryan and I could sit and watch the same fight and I'll be like, oh, I think so-and-so won. And he'll be like, Dad, what the frick is wrong with you?
Right.
This guy did this guy did that. And then I rewatch the tape and Ryan's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think it's just a hard thing.
And in the moment, you're biased for your person.
Yeah.
Sometimes to be quite honest, I actually am more biased against my fighters. And I think this is actually a real thing. And I won't call anybody out in particular, but I do have.
You can call people out.
No. I won't do this because I wouldn't. But I have ref or judge friends, and sometimes I think they actually judge me more harshly because they don't want to look like they're showing favoritism.
Sure, that could play into the
and it's like, I mean, I don't know that they're doing that consciously. I don't think they're going, oh, I better do this so that people don't think I'm being favorite to my friend. And I also do know one, which it's already been dealt with. He's not much around anymore, but there was one guy who was literally punishing me for my outspoken political beliefs on because he said so.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't do that. And I had to tell somebody, I'm like, this guy just literally said this because he doesn't like my politics. I'm like, that's
Isn't that a shame?
That's horrible.
That's such a bad thing. No, I was talking to another coach that you know very well recently, and he said that there's a particular judge that always goes against him and his team. Like, yeah, it's just such a bummer. Like, who knows what the truth is behind everything, right?
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, there's the thing too is that we, the things that you think are true or are happening in a judge's mind are often the opposite. And I remember one of my fighters for many, many years, Terrion Ware, who made it to UFC. We used to have these conversations all the time. We would sit around and talk about philosophy of fighting, talk about the judges and whatever. And he was saying he had a conversation with the judge who was a really good grappler. And we'd be like, dude, my guy had that guy's back for 4.5 minutes. Yeah. And it'd be like, yeah, but he wasn't close to finishing him. He was in the most dominant position for 4.5 minutes. Yeah, but in those 30 seconds, the other guy landed a really hard punch. and I was like, why would a grappler? And Terrion said something that was really, really insightful. He goes, because he doesn't get punched in the face, so that's scary to him. And he goes, so to him, that's like, ooh, that almost ended the fight. And I'm over here going, one punch. I'm 54 years old. I get punched multiple times in the day. It doesn't bother me at all. But it's like, but having somebody on my back, whether they've got the choke all the way in or not, I'm like, that guy's dominating me. That's how I see it. And I'm thinking from a grappler's perspective, oh, they're going to see, oh, this guy's dominating, but not always. Some grapplers might go domination, jiu-jitsu, but others might be like, oh, I could hang out there all day. That guy ain't choking me out, but that guy punched me in the face. That's scary. Yeah. So you don't know what the judges are thinking or how they're interpreting the rules. Because I've also had judges say to me, I agree with you. If it were me, the judge, I'm like, by the way, it was you, but it's like, if it were me, your guy won, did this. But by the criteria I'm supposed to follow, I had to give it to the other guy. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. We all agree who won the fight. What do you mean the criteria?
Yeah, no, it's a crazy, there should be also like a strict criteria though, I think that judges should follow. Because when you have a fight and there's times where it's 30-27 one guy and 30-27 the other guy.
Which
you know
makes
what I mean?
No sense.
Which is just, that should be like almost impossible to get to unless the rounds are just that evenly close. But 30-27 usually means a dominant win, and you can't give that to two sides in a fight. So I think it's also, you know, it plays in the part of like what those judges are kind of looking at, maybe their background and whatnot. Maybe one favors grappling more than striking or whatever it is. But I don't know. I think there has to be like a cohesive judging. But criteria.
You got to look at who's doing the judging. It's human beings, right?
Right.
And human beings, you know.
Well, it's just funny because after every event, we do a recap podcast, and there's like 3 or 4 fights where we're just talking about the judging being off, or there's an issue.
The thing I think that sometimes it does seem more dominant. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's because you have to remember 30-27 doesn't really mean it was a dominant fight. It just means that somebody won all 3 rounds. Yep. But if somebody won all 3 rounds by a hair, then
I guess the other side could,
right? Because I mean, that's what happens is you're judging each round by a round. So either we need to stop doing, and part of the reason is because boxing had 15 rounds, 12 rounds. Yeah. It's one discipline. You're punching, you're not kicking, you're not grappling. So it was, and even boxing is notoriously gets stuff wrong. But I think we're taking
but I think there's some corruption there, bro.
Boxing has some corruption for sure.
MMA is pretty clean. I don't know about boxing.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a little corruption everywhere or bias, but boxing has had it for sure. But it's like, but I think also though, it's just, you've got 15 rounds, 10 rounds, 12 rounds, whatever how many rounds they have on these big, and it's one discipline, and you're going round by round. That round, this guy won that round. There's, you know, you can get a 7-8 or a 6-9. When you got 3 rounds, and one is here and one is here and one is close, you're always going to have problems because you're judging it round by round. But the one thing that Pride did, which has its own inherent problem, is Pride used to do the 10-minute round and the 5-minute round, and they didn't judge the rounds, they judged the fight.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds great, and that is great for the most part. I think for the most part, it was a little better. But the problem with that is if you watch historically, they almost always give it to the person who went strongest at the end.
The last 2 minutes of the fight, potentially, right? Almost finished the guy or something like that. They're going to give him,
Even though the first 10 minutes might have been dominant to the other guy, but they're like, yeah, but he tired out and almost lost the fight here. And you're like, okay, there's an argument, maybe. I don't know. But that's maybe there's a combination somewhere. I mean, it would take a full revamping, but
What would you think of open scoring? Would you be for open scoring?
Actually not. They tried it.
Really?
They do it out. I forgot what show it was, but yeah.
They tried it. Knockout Promotions. Well, or at least they did it where, and I remember because it was really odd because I was in the corner after the first round and they are announcing it. Judges score the first round. So-and-so scores at red corner, so-and-so scores at red. And I'm literally in the corner going, dominated, you smash that guy, do that again. And they're like, all 3 judges give it to the red corner. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And I'm trying to corner my guy. And I'm like, I guess you're down. Don't do that again. Don't take him down and mount him and beat on his face for a minute. This time fall over and cry. I don't know what they want. And then it completely screwed up my whole game plan. I mean, it made me change it, but I'm like, wait, how did you lose that round? And that was just the first round. I'm like, okay, well, I guess the judges don't want to see you punch a guy. I don't know what to do now. So it messed me up because I was like hearing the weirdness in real time.
Yeah.
And then going, well,
but
crap.
You didn't know they were going to do that? You just heard
I knew they were going to do it.
Okay.
But I'm saying what threw me off is that their scores.
Yeah.
Like each round, and then like the next round, okay, we'll do something
and
different.
you're the type of guy that probably wants to deal with that shit right then and right there.
Yeah.
You probably start screaming out those words.
Like, what the fuck?
I think after the second, by the way, can we swear? I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear. Okay, cool.
Go ahead.
But
Chris will bleep it.
I accidentally always swear all the time. But that was my thing is I'm like, I think after round 2, because it was a whole event, we had like 3 or 4 guys on it.
Yeah.
But on one of them, I literally thought my guy was winning easily. And I'm telling him, you're killing this guy. And like second round, he's down 2-0. I almost was like, let's just forget, let's go. Like, let's just leave. Like, what are we doing here?
I can envision Ian's face in that moment because I've seen you eat it at our events. I could just imagine because, like,
especially in real
I would
time
lose
like
my
that.
shit in real time if I'm the corner or the coach. You know what I mean?
I think I literally turned around. I was like, what the fuck? Like to the judges, like, are you guys watching? It was crazy.
Well, it's really interesting too because different coaches have different, views on things, right? You're a very passionate guy. Some guys are just so calm and cool. Like, what works best for you? What do you feel is best? That passion, does that bring out the fire in you? Or
but the thing is, like in the corner, it took me a long time to get here, but in the corner, I'm super calm.
Yeah.
Like I have people I won't corner with, like fighters or other coaches where they're like if my fighter goes, oh, I'd like to have so-and-so in the corner, I go, no. Either no, or I want either I'm not there or they're not there because that person's going to be screaming and yelling like it's a video game. I can't. The guys are like left, right, move, yeah. I'm like the guy's on autopilot. Hopefully, all I need, like again, Terrion Ware was one of my favorite guys to ever train.
Class act,
and I could just, I literally, I wish he was. I wish he could call in. I could literally go in the middle of a fight like just this. I go, you see it, and he'd go. Sometimes he'd give me a thumbs up, or I go, body's open whenever you want it. And then he would might take him 30 seconds, but all of a sudden, bop, bop, bop. And I'd be like, and I could just kind of say one thing. The left, you see the left? Yeah. Okay, cool. That one that we worked on, whatever, like I could just say stuff like that. And I remember one time, John McCarthy said to me, he goes, I really love hearing you. This is back in the UNF days. He goes, I love hearing you corner. He goes, because I'll be reffing. He goes, and everything's screaming and yelling. And I hear the other corner screaming and yelling. And I hear the crowd screaming and yelling. He goes, and just coming in underneath all that is I always hear you go, okay, so-and-so, I want you to do this. And he goes, and I'm always going, yeah, that's the right thing to do. Yeah, that he's giving him the right advice. He goes, but I hear you talking quietly under the noise. And he goes, and some of the other times I hear when it does get riled up, not that I don't get riled up, when someone's not listening by round 3, I'm just like, of course, like everybody, what are you doing? But I try to stay there because that cuts. And, when we watch anything like UFC or LFA or anything that's televised, my family will watch at home. I come home, my daughter's always like, we could hear you over everything. we could just hear you going, okay. She goes, she's my daughter thinks I have like a annoying voice or something, but it was like, she's like, I could hear you like
impression.
in the corner being going like, all right, that's good. Do your thing. Like, I can hear you like in the corner. She's like, oh, there he is again.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so I try to stay really calm and I try to stay under and I try to like make sure that they know that I'm talking to them and that they can hear me. But yeah, but that's hard because some people don't listen, and then it gets really frustrating when you're like I said, this fight this weekend, I'm just like, by round 3, we're like, you have to go, you have to do something, you know, and it's just like, punch him. Like, it's,
Well, I think I know which athlete you're talking about. I think super talented, right? But I think mentally, you've got to be locked in, ready to go, and ready to perform. I think the mental side of things probably the most challenging, I would think, right?
It's 100%. Like, I mean, the weird thing is, I wanted to explore this and never did about with the documentary, because I spent 30 years as a comedian and a fight, and there's this weird parallel. I know a ton of comedians who train, tons of them. Russell Peters and Brian Callen and of course Joe Rogan and Jamie Kilstein and just so many comedians that train. And then I know a bunch of fighters that try to do open mics, or when they retire, go and try to do comedy. There's been like 10 of them. And there's guys in gyms that are like, yeah, I'm going to this open mic or whatever. And I'm like, what is this weird synergy or partnership or whatever the word is between comedy and fighting? And I was thinking about it. The other thing that's weird about it is that those are the two things that are the scariest. If you ask the number one fears in the world,
I agree with
it's
that.
public speaking and getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
Sure.
And every fighter and I'm being, a little hyperbolic saying the majority of fighters and comedians I know are the worst with anxiety and panic. And I'm like, so why do the group that have anxiety and panic do the two things that are the most scariest things? And I think it just comes down to them trying to find a way to control their brain. And whether that's writing, getting on stage and performing and overcoming that fear, or coming into a gym and getting over, what if somebody attacks me someday in the street, and eventually they go, well, I'm good at this, let me get in there and fight. But if they don't really overcome that anxiety by whatever they need to do. I mean, everyone's different. Maybe it's counseling, maybe it's medication, maybe it's some sort of just cognitive therapy. But if you don't, and you get in there and your fight or flight mode pops up, which it's going to, you're gonna blank out and you're gonna not do the right thing. And it's like, I have some of the best fighters I've ever seen can't get it together in the cage.
Yeah. No, I've seen that. I've seen dudes that look amazing in the gym, the toughest guy in the gym, but once they get into those big lights, they fucking crumble. It's like stage fright almost.
Well, I think it also there's a reverse to this, and I've had fighters think I'm being a dick to them, and I'm not. But a lot of times the reason,
Are you sure?
yeah,
Okay.
no, the reason they're the best, a lot of times the reason they're the best in the gym, they might actually be the best in the gym, but there's another element to that, is that in the gym, so the gym is your comfort zone.
Yep.
I know you, I train with you every day, whatever.
Yeah.
So a guy who's really confident is going to be flowing and moving. And we used to train with Dan Hardy, who was UFC, and you could tap him out. Like, pretty, like people tap him out all the time. I remember the first time I ever trained with him, and we were like, I'm like, this guy's, he wasn't in the UFC yet, but he was like big and I'm like, this guy's the champion of that. I mean, this guy's, you could tap this guy out like nothing. And years later, when I knew him, I asked him that, and he goes, I laughed. He goes, yeah. He goes, well, my thing is striking. He goes, and I'm, he goes, so when I'm sparring with you, because I'm not gonna knock out my training partners, so I'm hitting you on the chin. I'm like, he goes, like, yeah, that was a knockout. That was a knockout. Yeah. He goes, and then you take me down, and that's not my. He goes, so I play and you tap. He goes, you get me, I tap, I move on, so I can get back to where I want to be. And he's like, but in a fight, I'm not tapping to that. Right. I'm not. And then I think that was right before he fought GSP, where GSP had him in that freaking Kimura or whatever for like 5 minutes, and he just gritted it out, and we went 5 rounds. And I'm like, in the gym, he would have just tapped and moved on, because there's no ego. He's not. But the guy who has the anxiety problem is going 100% in the gym sometimes. And so it's always a fight. Yeah. And I tell those guys, I go, if you can't learn to control yourself in the gym amongst your friends, amongst your teammates, when there's no pressure, it's going to be a complete meltdown when that guy is trying to kill you across the cage. And the person that you think is, oh, I beat this guy up and whatever, he's not that great in the gym. That guy might just be super calm and working shit through. And then when the fight comes, he might be like, okay, I'm gonna turn this on, and he might be completely clear-headed. Whereas the guy who's the badass in the gym can't clear his head.
Yeah. No, I've seen that so many times. Like dudes just get dialed in and have such amazing performance in that cage that you never expect.
Yeah. No, I think it's, you got to be comfortable going in there too. And I do think actually training, like when you do have no ego and you're in the training room with even guys that are better than you, or you're willing to, know what you're maybe not good at. Like there's no ego involved. You're just getting that good work is really what's going to prepare you for the cage. It's actually an interesting point that you bring up. But yeah, I think, but what I see with guys when they go in there and they have great performances, it's always the guys that seem mentally locked into me. Like the guys that just.
Yeah, like Elijah Stone.
Elijah Duke.
Why did I say Stone? That's Elijah Stone's from San Diego. No, but he looked so good at his last fight. Looked so dialed in, mentally prepared. Wow.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing about him is he's confident, but he's actually had a couple losses where he went in there and almost the opposite, where I think he thought it was going to go a certain way. He was overconfident and also maybe thought, okay, we did think, okay, this guy's going to fight a certain way. And then which happens a lot. That's another thing that happened with the one this weekend is everyone kept saying, oh no, this guy's a kickboxer. And I kept saying, he's going to, when you punch him in the face, he is going to wrestle because nobody likes getting hit by you. Yeah, but he's a kickboxer. And sure enough, 30 seconds, bop, 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 wobbled the guy, took my guy down, and the rest of the fight was wrestling my dude, and which he should have been prepared for and whatever, but it was like not the game plan you thought he was going to do. You thought he was going to stand with you, didn't you? He even said afterwards, you thought I was going to stand with you, didn't you? And that, I think with Eli, he's so confident and he's trained so hard and he's just a natural.
Yeah.
That the big thing I have to fight with someone like him is when he does lose is is going, I guess I'm not cut out for this. This is done. Because I thought I was going to just destroy everybody that's ever walked in front of me. And it's like, that's not going to happen. You have to get that out of your head too. I need you to be confident, but you also can't be so confident that if you lose, I mean, that's the Ronda Rousey or the, BJ Penn and that, like some of these people that are so good, adversity, I'm not trying to call anybody out. They're phenomenal, best fighters of all time. But when you're used to running through everybody and then you face adversity, sometimes that's a mountain you can't climb.
Well, we talk about it all the time too. And let's kind of go into the matchmaking a little bit. Like when we talk to these fighters, like especially the rising stars, the amateurs, we're just like, we don't care about the wins or losses from a promotional perspective. We just feel it's important that these guys get the experiences.
Yeah.
If they're handed easy matchups or cans and things like that, it's really detrimental to their future, I think.
No, I mean, I say that to guys all the time. And I've had people think I've had a fighter leave my gym because he misunderstood what I said, even though I tried to explain it multiple times. I kept telling him, you are probably going to be a 500 fighter as an amateur. You are good. You are UFC bound, but you're going to be 500 fighter. And he took that as, you're not good, you're a 500 fighter, you're a journeyman. And I said, no, because I'm going to give you an easy fight. I'm going to give you a hard fight. I'm going to give you a evenly matched up fight. You're going to go out there and you're going to mess up and do the wrong thing because you're going to be nervous. You're going to go out there and that guy's just going to be on. And you're going to have your ups and downs. That's what amateur is for.
Yep.
So that once you get dialed in, okay, the nerves are gone, and now you got you're grappling up to your striking, or you're striking up to your grappling, and you're at this level across the board, right? You're like purple belt, striking, jujitsu, mental game, physical.
Sure.
You're at this level. Then you go pro, and you've got all that crap out of the way, and that means that you might not be undefeated as an amateur. Hopefully you're not 0-10, but if you're 6-4, 5-5. And you fought some tough guys. That's what you're there for.
Exactly.
That's exactly what you're there for.
Now you're a lot better off taking hard fights. One fight, fighting a black belt if that's possible.
Right.
Fighting a guy with 10 Muay Thai fights, whatever it is, at the amateur level, because you got guys that are 7-0, 8-0 as amateurs, but haven't fought anyone that's been able to challenge them whatsoever. So the first time you see that, you want it to be as a rising star or an amateur before you go pro. And we try to preach that, but a lot of people just think they need to have this perfect record and then they're on top of the world. But it's about the wins and losses and dealing with adversity and being able to bounce back.
I think the bummer is today's world so optics, social media. Oh, he's undefeated. He's this, he's that. Like it's just all these labels, right? But I think when you sit down, you talk to these fighters, a lot of these guys that had really good amateur careers and then they go pro and then they get their losses. They would say that they wish they would have lost or experienced loss earlier on and known how to handle it.
Well, and sometimes though, as a coach, and this is the balance, and I think this is the one thing that I'm good at as a coach. Although again, always, anytime you're honest with people, it pisses them off, and they don't always handle it well. It's a super bummer.
Honest with someone.
But the thing is that, like, for me, sometimes it's like I have to look at. I know a lot of coaches that think this is what I do. I train like this. These are the things I teach. This is the way I act. I'm a an 80s movie wrestling coach. Get in there, ladies. And I'm not that guy. That's somebody, and I don't have a problem with that. But there's people who I think that the coaches that are like, this is how it's done. I don't believe that. I believe that one guy might respond well to a loss. One guy I might not let lose too early because I know his mentality. And if that guy loses, he's going to quit.
Yeah.
And I don't want that guy to quit because he's so talented. So that might be a guy that I got to build up and prepare for. You're going to lose. Might be 5 fights in a row. No, you're going to lose. You're going to get a tough guy. That we're getting tougher. And other people, I want them to lose right off the bat. So they're like, I mean, I don't want them to lose, but I'm like, if they lose, cool. But some people that crushes, some people that motivates, and you have to know which guy it is. And you're never going to be able to figure that out automatically. But I try to talk to them and get their psyche, figure them out and say, okay, is this a guy that's going to bounce back from adversity? Do we get him harder fights early? Or is this a person that we need to build their confidence and then get them their loss a little bit later so that they learn to bounce back from it? And you don't always know, but that's for me, that's part of being a coach, is understanding.
Well, that's part of being a good coach.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think it's one of those things where it's not one size fits all. So I think, like, even if it's coaching or running a business, you got to have that same mentality, right? You got to focus on people's strengths and weaknesses. And you used a key word, which was building.
Yeah.
Building your athletes, not only physically, but also building them mentally.
Well, and like you said, fighting or business. I say this probably every day. Fighting is a business.
It is.
These guys that come in, I get these guys all the time. I literally was fighting with a guy this week who's like, yeah, I want to get in there. I want to fight, blah, blah, blah. I go, I haven't seen you. You haven't been training. Yeah, but let me just get in there. Why? I go, what do you want to do this for? And they're like, well, I just want to fight. So you want to prove you're tough? I go, here's the best way to do that. Go to a bar, call a dude a bitch. We'll see how tough you are. Go for it. Go in there and grab his, go in there and start picking up on his girlfriend. You'll get in a fight. See how tough you are. I'm like, if you want to do this for a living, then you put in the work and you do the things that I'm telling you to do and that your coaches are telling you to do, and we do it like a business. And again, as an amateur, I can throw you different fights, higher level, lower level, because that's part of the business. But when you go pro, the UFC, unfortunately, and all the big ones, that is partly their disease, is they do want to see. I've had this happen. Again, some of my fighters that made it eventually, where they should have made it 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
But they had like 5 tough decision wins, or it's like they had a win against a high level guy, a loss against a world champion, a win against, and then somebody else who gets in front of them who
fought all cans,
and all knockouts,
finishes. Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but this guy fought the 5 best guys in the world and was 3-2. And this guy fought 3 cans and got a flying knee knockout, and he gets in and he wouldn't even fight my guy.
Yeah.
So that's annoying. But I'm like, but at the same time, I get it. In the pros, that's the business. Once you go pro, I have to build you a certain way with the right fights, because then it's about the optics. The amateurs to me are about building a person that's well-rounded, tough, been through adversity, got the learns, got the wins, all that sort of stuff. So when I go pro, it can be a business. But from the beginning, as an athlete, this has to be a business. I say it all the time. If you want to be a doctor, you don't go, and I go, what do you do and you go, yeah, I go to a class. I took a biology class. I like to sit around and pick my scabs. And, I watch YouTube videos on people popping zits. I'm going to be a doctor someday. No, You go to med school. You go get your undergrad. Then you go to med school. You get your best grades. You try to go to you got to try to go to Harvard or one of these. That's what you do to be a doctor. You study your ass off and you go for 7 years and you're there. And if you got to work a day job, you got to work a day job. If you got to take the train an hour to get to that medical school, because you can't live in that town because it's too expensive, that's what you do. But these fighters are like, I just want to get in there. It's like, cool. I admire your toughness. But why do you want to just go lose and not train? Like, you have to do the work, dude.
Well, I think they're choosing, and Ryan, tell me what you think, but I think they're choosing the hardest profession on the planet, in my opinion.
It's certainly one of them.
I think being a doctor is easier than being an MMA fighter, in my opinion.
There's a direct path, I'll say that much.
You know, look, the blood, sweat, and tears, the work you have to put in, the making of no money right at the beginning. Like, there's so many.
Yeah, I think to really make it, it's crazy. I mean, a lot of guys have a lot of bad luck too, right? There could be guys that take it so seriously, training 2-3 times a day, have another job to make things work. And then there's some guys where they're scheduled to fight 3 times in a year, and each time their opponent pulls out, or there's an injury, or there's something else too. And there could be so many speed bumps and all that stuff in the world. So I truthfully do think being a fighter is one of the hardest and scariest professions, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, I mean, a professional athlete, any sort of entertainer or anything like that, obviously the numbers are just so and there's so much luck involved. There's so much luck involved because I think a little different than, you know, like if you want to be like a singer or a comedian or something, there's a lot more luck in that you have to have because you have to get opportunities. Fighting, though, there's a definite amount of luck, and there's also a path, but it's not like you get your degree, here's your certificate, you go find a job. There's none of that. You have to fight your way up. You have to fight the right guys, and then there's relationships. You have to know people. You have to get that fallout like the UFC. But it's almost always you got to be ready and that fallout.
And they also have to work on building their brand nowadays, right? Like the UFC is looking at people that can move the needle, whether that's pay-per-view sales, ticket sales, social media, you know, what you're following. Like there's so many different things to make it in MMA that these athletes have to look at. It's not just their performance in the cage.
No, and that's the thing about MMA that also just the performance alone is different than any other sport. It is the decathlon of combat sports because a boxer has to be in decent shape, but usually a boxer isn't lifting weights, isn't doing explosive. They're doing long runs. They're doing road work, and they're doing their sparring, and they're doing their and it's one discipline. Kickboxing is also basically one discipline. Although it's kicks, not just punches. If you're a grappler, whatever. But MMA, you have to wrestle. You have to do jiu-jitsu or some sort of submission grappling. You have to box. You also have to kickbox because those are 2 separate things. And you have to do MMA, wall work, ground work, transitional work, ground and pound. That's its own art. MMA is its own art that isn't just the combination of grappling and striking. And it's not just grappling and striking because there's 2 different types of grappling. Jiu-jitsu doesn't do much takedowns. Wrestling doesn't do submissions. So you got to do both those things. Kickboxing, Muay Thai doesn't have a jab, doesn't have footwork, doesn't have defense. Boxing doesn't have elbows, kicks, and knees. So you got to do 4-5 disciplines. Then you have to do strength and conditioning, cardio work, explosive work, long term, like the endurance work, explosive work. That's all just for the fight. Then you have to do your social media. Then you have to get it's like
the
5 full-time
things.
Yes, like it's like 8 full-time jobs you gotta do.
It's actually crazy.
No, this is why I think it's one of the hardest things. And the highs are high and the lows are really low.
Yeah, you put all that time in and it doesn't go your way.
Well, how often have you had one of your fighters totally dominate a fight and just get caught?
Yeah, it happens all the time, especially if you go look at people's records. As you guys probably know, I'm a little maybe on the spectrum or something. But I like a weird student of all stuff. I watch and notice weird things, and I used to notice this all the time when I was coming up as a coach. I'd see guys or know them personally. And you'd look at their record and they'd be like, whatever, 18-9. And you're like, whoa, this guy has submitted 17 out of 18 people. And his 9 losses, all submission. And you're like, how is a guy that's that good at submission keep getting caught? Or the same thing, you'd see, wow, this guy's beat the 18 best people on the planet and lost to 9 journeymen. How is that possible? And when you look at those types of people, it's because of the way they fight. The guys that are so good with their jiu-jitsu or their ground game are attacking, and they're putting themselves in vulnerable situations. And anyone can get caught when they make a mistake, right? Whereas the guy that's got 20 decisions wins, has 20 decision losses, or it is 9 decision losses because that person's more careful or fights a certain way. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you never, it all comes down to how you fight and how you train and your mentality. And sometimes it's like I said, the guy, and also with the whole, why do people beat A-listers and lose to C-listers? Yeah. There's a whole other psychology of people that fight at the level of their opponent. Yeah. It is weird. Guys that aren't very good, matching world champions, and then guys that are great coming down to the level of somebody who shouldn't even be in the cage with them. That's just like back to it. It's the mental. It's the psychology. Are you going full bore, putting yourself at risk? You're going to get caught. Are you taking chances? You're probably not going to get a lot of finishes. Are you fighting at the level of your opponent? You're going to beat the best guys in the world and lose to the worst guys in the world. It's just, it all comes down to here. You know, that's 90% of it. Isn't that like one of the old football coaches like Bear Bryant or something like that? So like, you know, 90% of football is mental or something.
Yeah, no, I feel like that is MMA, but that has to be hard as a coach to, you know, say have 10, 20 students are competing actively and they're all their mentals are different. You got to treat each of them in a different way and know their strengths and know their, like, I don't think people appreciate how much it goes into actually being a coach that cares about
I never
students.
Realized, you know, I've been around the space kind of all my life, but deeply entrenched for the last 3 years with our ex, and been fortunate to develop good relationships with guys like you and some other coaches. What these coaches sacrifice and go through for these athletes, no one knows.
Yeah.
Definitely. No one realizes.
Well, it is funny.
Emotional ups and downs, the financial ups
not
and
just
downs.
the physical training, but like the mental, emotional, and financial. Obviously.
What they invest into these athletes, again, both financially, which I don't think people get. Those gym dues aren't that much to cover the overhead, this and that. But, you know, the emotional bandwidth that these coaches give to their athletes, it's crazy to me.
Well, it's that's the thing that really, where I do get too emotional is that there's a handful of loyal people in this business, but not many.
Not a lot.
And I've spent sometimes a decade, 5, 10, 12 years with a guy who came in off the street going, "What do you guys do here?" Yeah. "We fight." "What's fighting?" To getting in the UFC. And then they go, "Hey, I got to go somewhere good.
See you later."
And I'm like, "You lived in my house. I paid your bills, gave you a job. When you had this problem, you lived in, you know, my wife let you borrow her car or whatever, like all these things. Like when you have a kid, and when you had to get to training, we found you daycare, whatever, like all these things." And I'm like, and on top of that, which fighters never understand, because I always get this, people go, "Oh, it's not, well, it's not personal." I go, "No, I'd rather it be personal. I don't think it's personal." I'm like, "Oh, you're a great guy." I'm like, "No, I don't care that they never get this." "No, don't worry. It's not personal." I go, "I know it's not personal. That's not what I'm worried about. What I'm pissed about is that you made this business decision, because I know it's not personal. I know you like me as a person, but you're making what I think is a shitty business decision. But it's also insulting to me as if you go to your doctor, who's again, back to a doctor, the world-renowned heart surgeon, and he's been there forever, and he diagnosed you, and just when surgery's about to happen, you're like, "Hey doc, nothing personal, but I'm gonna have my buddy do heart surgery. Or I'm gonna go to this other doctor." And you're like, and he's like, "Nothing personal. I just think you might kill me." Well, I'm not taking that personally. I'm taking that as you think I'm shitty at my job.
Yeah.
That's not a personal thing. That's a business thing. And I'm like, yeah, and there's a little personal hurt to it. Like
there's always a little,
but it's like, wait, why would you think I'm I'm the best heart surgeon in the world? Why would you? And I'm not saying I'm the best coach in the world, but I'm saying if you're like, you've been all this sort of stuff, I'm the one that diagnosed you, and now you're going to go with this other surgeon who isn't even ranked in the, like, what? It blows me away. I'm like, that's what drives me nuts.
Well, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Or somebody experiences a loss or this or that. And like I've always said, like, I just wish athletes would communicate better with their coaches. If they feel like they're missing out on something, right, and this other team is saying, "Oh, we could do this over there, we do this," talk to your coach.
Yeah.
Get it worked out. If you feel like you're not evolving or you're growing, have a discussion like your coach has with you.
Right.
Like, make sure that the communication goes both ways, right? You expect your coach to be open and honest with you. You need to be doing that same thing.
Well, and the thing that also that they don't realize is that, you know, and I'm not like saying, you know, not like boohoo, but if let's say your goal is to be UFC world champion, okay? Well, your goal is to be UFC world champion. I got 20 of you, okay? My goal as the coach is to be the coach of the UFC world champion. As a financial decision, how much do I get of that? I get 10%. So if you're making $200,000 a year on your way up, $100,000 a year on your way up as a fighter, I'm making $10,000 a year. And I have to put as much work and often more, because when you go to Rhode Island to fight and you're getting paid $1,000 and they're giving you one plane ticket, I'm paying for my own plane ticket.
Yeah.
I'm getting 10% of your $1,000. So I'm getting $100 to leave my family for a week to go across the country on my dime. And I've got to do that with 20 guys for 10 years so that when you make $100,000, I can make $10,000, which doesn't even cover my,
it doesn't even cover the last.
Right. So I got to do, so when you get there, that's my dream, is to get all 20 of you there. So now that I'm making, or 10 of you, so that I'm making what one of you makes just by having 10 of you there. So when you guys leave, you are not, and the thing is, I'm not in control of my dream. If it's, I'm saying my dream, I'm not saying it's my dream, but I'm like, it is on some level, but I'm not in control of my dream.
But it's because your dream, you're part of it, right?
It's
a joint, mutual, shared dream, right?
But it's like, I'm not in control of it because I'm not the one that gets to call the shots when you get there. The fighter can go, I'm going to go do this by themselves. And people go, you should have a contract. I'm like, contract wouldn't do me any good anyway. And first off, I don't want a contract with them. But second of all, I'm going to hold them hostage. They don't want to be here and there's animosity. And I go, contract says I must be your coach. That's not going to work. It doesn't make any sense. If I was a manager, that's one thing, but I'm not a manager. I don't want to do the business side. I'm a fight guy. So it's really difficult. And sometimes they become coaches, fighters.
And then they understand.
And then they always call them, so sorry. Yeah. But it's crazy. Like the things that, you know, also the things that they say, that the things that drive me crazy, and I get it, it's human nature, but also it's the anxiety we talked about earlier, right? Mm-hmm. They have this anxiety, so they don't know how to control things. And somebody's saying this thing over here, but it's almost always somebody telling them some nonsense, but it's always somebody telling them what they want to hear. And the thing is, I mean, I literally joke and people go, "It's so funny." And I'm like, I literally said this. I wasn't trying to be funny. I mean, I was trying to be funny. I was trying to be a dick. But I had somebody say to me, a fighter who was, I'll say so I don't give away. Let's just say they were a famous gymnast who'd been training a little while. And after like a short period of time, hey, I'm going to go do this over here. Why would you do that? That's a bad idea. And they said, I know what I need. What do you mean you know what you need? You've been training 3 months. You don't know what you need. You know nothing, first of all. And second of all, even if you've been training 10 years, you probably think you know what you need because I want to go hit pads more. Cool. That's because you like doing that. The things you're avoiding are the things you need because that's why you're avoiding them. And I'm like, I said, if I came to you and said, I want to be a world-class gymnast, you being a world-class gymnast, and you said, cool, I'll coach you. And after 3 weeks, I said, I'm just going to go over in the corner and do somersaults. You'd be like, huh? What? Yeah. And I go, look, I know what I need. I need to do somersaults on the mat. Well, that's not going to get you to be a world-class gymnast. I know what I need. You don't know anything. You've been doing this 3 months. A somersault's not going to get you anywhere. And it's like the argument I have with these people where I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. And you're trying to do what's comfortable, what's fun for you. I want to do this, so I'm going to go do more of this because I enjoy that. You don't need more of what you enjoy. You need more of what you don't enjoy.
That's just not an athlete thing, right? Like in my normal business, like I get guys that are super talented. They like to do certain aspects of the job, and they'll do that well. The things that are important, the things they don't like, man, they always shy away from doing.
Of course, because it's hard work.
Nature. Yeah.
Because it's hard work. But the people who really succeed are the ones who
whatever's needed to be done.
But the other weird thing that throws me, and I get it because my daughter's an actor, so she gets mad at me sometimes. She goes, "I'm not one of your fighters," but she hears me say it to fighters, and she's like puts it on herself sometimes. She's like, "But I do that with my acting sometimes, and that's not what it is. That's not what it is." But I have this odd thing. To me, it's odd when you start at a gym, okay, or started any sport, right? I grew up surfing. I love surfing. Been surfing my whole life.
What kind of board did you ride?
Like what brand or what
brand?
size?
Yeah, no, what board?
Well, I had for most of my life, Bob Pearson at Pearson Arrow shaped all my boards.
Becker surfboards.
Oh, okay, cool.
As a youngster, so just wondering. Go ahead.
I'm from Santa Cruz, so you have to surf by the time you're 9, or they kick you out of the city.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I surf all, and I'm a good surfer. I've been surfing my whole life, but I have friends who are blow me out of the water and still didn't make it pro. And then I have friends that are pro surfers that are like insane, right? I watch them like, how do those guys surf that good? But my point is that I love surfing. If someone said, hey, Ian, we're going to pay you to surf, I would be in the water every day. Like, I would just be surfing, and I wouldn't think of it as business. You know, I mean, I know it always gets mixed up when there's business involved, but you're like, I love this. You're telling me I just get to go surf, and there's gonna be money showing up in my bank account. Cool.
Sign me up.
But a weird thing happens. Guys come into the gym, they start doing jiu-jitsu, they start doing kickboxing, and it's a hobby. Oh, I'm doing this for fitness. Oh, I lost some weight. And they go, oh, this is fun. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, I love this. They're there every day, 5 days a week. This is my hobby. My wife wishes she could see me, but I'm here training every day because I love jiu-jitsu. I love MMA. And can I do an amateur fight? Cool. They get an amateur fight. Oh, I love this. And then then it's like, okay, cool. Come on the fight team and whatever. Within a year, they're not in any of the classes. And you're like, what are you doing? Well, yeah, I just want to come to the team training and I want to do this and I want to do that. I'm like, well, why don't you want to? I thought you loved jiu-jitsu. I thought you loved kickboxing. I thought that was your hobby.
Yeah.
And your hobby became, now you're getting paid or you're working toward getting paid and you don't want to do your hobby anymore. That's always weird to me because that happens so often where I'm like, if all of a sudden I was getting money in my bank account for surfing, I wouldn't all of a sudden not want to surf. Like, I don't understand. That's a weird mentality. And it's not everybody, but there's a giant chunk of people that as soon as it starts becoming a thing for them,
real. Yeah.
They don't do jiu-jitsu for fun anymore. They don't come to wrestling class for fun anymore. Now it's seen as work or something, and they only come when they have to. And that's weird to me. I'm like, you love this.
Yeah.
Don't you? Don't you love this? Like, shouldn't you be here because you love it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm old and injured and I don't get as much enjoyment out of it as I used to, but I still enjoy training.
Well, you've been doing this, 40 years or something?
Well, I started boxing when I was 6 and I'm 54. So 48 years, if you want to count when I started boxing.
How'd you get started in the, like,
Bro,
all this
you want to know
happened?
how I got started? Just check out his Wikipedia page, bro. Like, I was trying to prep for you, dude. There's a Wikipedia. There's like 10 pages of it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I started boxing when I was 6 because I saw Rocky, and that's the only time that in my life that a white guy was ever a heavyweight boxing champion. But I used to, I loved boxing. I'd watch back in the old days, it was always on Wide World of Sports, or if it was a really big deal, it'd be like Friday night on ABC or something like that. You could see Sugar Ray Leonard fight, but there was no pay-per-view, there was no HBO, there was no Showtime. Bro. Man, I'd watched, Ali fight Holmes on Saturday morning. It's crazy. But I love boxing. And I watched Rocky and I was obsessed with Rocky when I was, 6 and I started boxing and I boxed, like PAL, Police Athletic League, which is like feeder into Golden Gloves. And I did that for about 4 years or so until when I was 10, I grew up in Santa Cruz, pretty small area. And I grew up in a suburb of Santa Cruz. So there's not a lot of kids around. So when I first started boxing, there was a bunch of kids who wanted to box because they all saw Rocky too. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, by the time 4 years later, they had all lost interest. So there wasn't really anybody my age boxing. And the only kid, I was the smallest kid in my school all the way through high school, all the way till probably sophomore year, I was the smallest kid in my school. And in elementary school, I was like a toddler. And the only other kid that was my age was the biggest kid in school. And his dad was like a world champion kickboxer, like full, like no rules kickboxer. And, so I was probably 40 pounds and he was probably 120 pounds. And that was my sparring partner. That was the only guy I had. And he beat the living shit out of me.
Sure.
and I stopped liking it. I got really gun shy. I quit. And then I started around 12 years old. I wrestled. I wrestled for like 3 years until I dislocated my elbow. And then I had to quit in the middle of that season. And then during that time I started doing traditional martial arts, Kempo, Wing Chun, all the traditional stuff, because I was also obsessed with Bruce Lee. So I did that all the way till I was 21, and did, you know, black belts and all those traditional martial arts stuff. And then I moved down here for work as a writer, screenplay writer, when I was 21, and I joined IMB Academy, which was
down in Carson.
Yeah, down in Carson. Yeah. So I joined with Richard Bustillo. Yep. And I did JKD. I did my phase 3 through Richard Bustillo. And at the time, Richard was coaching basically was the US Muay Thai team was run through Richard. Richard was a heavyweight boxing, like amateur Hawaiian heavyweight boxing champion, and a Bruce Lee student, and a Muay Thai guy. So I was there for about 4 years. In fact, one of the coaches at my gym, Ed Wedding, we were the exact same age, and Ed was already there a year, and Ed was kind of like the badass guy at the time. And I've known Ed since 1992, and Ed teaches Muay Thai in my gym now. But I trained at IMB, and we would do some Shuto with Yuri Nakamura on certain days. And then there was a brown belt from the Gracie Academy would come in, I think Friday nights or Saturdays, and we would do some jiu-jitsu. And that's 94. So I was 92. 94 is when the UFC first came out. So I started watching UFC. I was like, oh, I got to start doing some of this grappling stuff. And then I moved back to the Bay Area in end of 95. And the first thing I did is started training jiu-jitsu with Claudio França in Santa Cruz. And I was with Claudio França for about 5 years, doing straight jiu-jitsu. And then I moved back down here again in 2000, back to LA. And when I moved back down here, I was on the road full time as a comedian, and I was doing other stuff. And I just started, while I was on the road in the 90s and in the 2000s, I would train at a different gym every week. So like as a comic, you're in Tucson for a week, right? Doing a comedy club. You're at the Improv in Florida, whatever the deal is. So I would find the gym. So that's how I became good friends with Greg Jackson in the 90s, back when it was Jackson's Gaido Jitsu, and he wasn't even training MMA guys at the time, really. But he was the only grappler in Albuquerque. And I was in Albuquerque like 3 weeks out of the year because it was one of my favorite clubs. So 3 weeks out of the year, I'd go train with Greg Jackson. We would roll and all his guys. And then I watched all of his guys, Diego Sanchez and Keith Jardine and all these guys go on to the UFC and whatever. And then Greg became probably, in my opinion, the greatest MMA coach. Him and Matt Hume, probably the greatest MMA coaches of all time. And I watched him, do this from the 90s up, and we've been friends. So I would train in different places and train with all these world-class people while I was doing that. And then when I moved down here, my agent manager told me not to go on the road anymore, like only be 10 weeks out of the year instead of 40. So I had to get a day job. And within a year, I was like, I'm not training. I was trying to train some Beverly Hills Jiu-Jitsu a little bit, but I was getting tired off work and I wasn't going. So I found a place, 2003, I found a karate school, and I said, will you let me teach 2 nights a week? And I figured if I taught, it would force me to train. Because I had a membership, but I never went because I was just lazy at that time. And so he said, sure. And I started training. 2003, I started coaching. I started teaching 2 nights a week, and that quickly came 4 nights a week. Through there, I met a jiu-jitsu instructor. He was a brown belt at the time. He was teaching some jiu-jitsu there named Sean Choi, who became my jiu-jitsu instructor for a while. We also had a gym together, but he taught there for a little bit and then was off doing school and whatever, doing other things. So I ended up doing 4 nights a week, and there was no word MMA then. So that's where the term fight science came from.
Yeah. Did you coin that term, fight science? Did you sort of create that term?
Yeah, that was supposed to be the style, right?
Got it.
So people are like, what style do you teach? And before that, like my style as a kid was called like, God, what was it? It was Kempo Wing Chun. It was like my traditional martial arts style was called, God, I can't even remember what it's called, but it was it was like and then I had done Jeet Kune Do and I'd done jujitsu. So I'm like, I'm not doing that karate stuff anymore. It's not Kempo jujitsu. Yeah. So I'm like, what do I call it? Because I grapple. I started bringing my wrestling into it. I'm like, I boxed. I'm like, I fought Muay Thai. I had not a ton of fight, but like 5 Muay Thai smokers, whatever. So I'm like, okay, I fought Muay Thai. I did all these things. And I'm like, what do I call this? Because I'm not teaching jujitsu. I'm not teaching with the gi. I'm like, what is this called? And I'm like, and one day I said, well, it's not a martial art. It's the science of fighting. So I said, well, I'm going to call my style fight science. So instead of calling it karate or boxing or Muay Thai or hybrid, I just said, it's the science of fighting. And then like 6 months later, someone came up with the term MMA. So I just added MMA to the end of it, and it was fight science MMA. And that became my brand, not my style. But originally it was the style.
Got it.
And Yeah. And so I was teaching there. And then 2004, it was still illegal MMA. And then I had 3 guys that were at the gym that wanted to fight. Well, 2 guys. One guy's name was George James, big heavyweight guy. And then my current partner at Fight Science, Julian Rush, who became the first heavyweight champion of California. And George wanted to fight. And there was no place to fight except for Eric Del Fierro, who runs, he was San Diego. Yeah. He had a show called Total Combat. And it was run out of a nightclub called Baby Rock in Tijuana. It was like this crazy nightclub that looked like a Flintstone house or something. And so George said, I want to fight. So I said, cool, let's get a fight. And we set up a fight to go down to Baby Rock and fight, and this is like, again, 2004, I think. And there was another kid at the gym who'd only been there 2 months, but he wrestled. He had wrestled in high school and wrestled a little bit in junior college, and was working as an animator and trying to start his own animation studio, had his own little animation studio, and was still going to school, and was a little bit out of shape. And Eric called me and goes, hey man, I got a 145er wrestler. This guy's only been training 6 months, but he wrestled in high school. Do you have anybody? So I went to this kid and I said, hey, yeah, I know you've only trained 2 months, but you got a lot of wrestling. Any chance you want to go fight on this card that James is fighting on, or that George is fighting on in Mexico against a guy with 6 months, but 4 years of high school wrestling? And he goes, fuck it, I guess I can make 145. I'm a little out of shape. When do I got to make weight? I'm like, Friday. Okay, cool. And that was Chad George.
Nice.
And yeah, so
Chad told that story.
Did he?
Yeah.
And so Chad and George went down, made weight. Julian and I went down and met them, and that was Chad knew nothing but a couple little things. He watched that fight. He's wearing wrestling shoes. He doesn't like stupid kicks, and we showed him this one thing: when somebody shoots a double leg on you, how to flip him over and catch a mounted guillotine. And it was very back and forth, but he was probably losing. And it was in a ring. And in the 3rd round, dude shot in and he rolled him over and caught him in the mounted guillotine. And the ref kept restarting fights if they went under the ropes. And it was under the ropes, and the ref was coming over to stop it. And I don't know if it was me or Julian. One of them was like, Chad, you got to pull him out from the rope. Chad. And Chad pulled his head out of the ropes, just in front of the ropes. And the ref stepped back, and then the guy tapped.
Got to finish him.
And that was his very first fight. And then I remember it was like afterward, Eric handed him or it was Eric or Manolo, Manny, he owns San Diego Combat Sports. Okay. Manny, big yeah. Man. He was the ring announcer.
Oh, no
and somebody handed Chad an envelope, and I don't remember if it was either $50 or $200. It was like cash. And Chad goes, they gave me money. They gave me cash. I'm like, yeah, gas. You're a professional fighter. He's like, I didn't know I was getting paid. And so that was our first. And then we had to do that. We had to go down to Mexico, and those 3 guys fought. Chad and Julian and George fought in Mexico. And then in 2000, for like a year, there was two shows, Reto Combat and Total Combat, and Reto Maximo and Total Combat. And then in 2005, they made it legal here. And Eric moved his thing to San Diego, and then Todd Meacham started TFA. And those were the first, and then Chad and Julian were the 2 of the first champions. Chad lost his first fight and then won the rematch. Julian won, and then his first fight. So they were the 2 of the first champions in sanctioned California MMA. You've
been around since the beginning. What do you think of the evolution and the state of MMA and combat sports today?
I think, to be honest with you, I don't think there's as much evolution as people think there is in terms of, this is me. This is a me.
I want to hear this.
This is a me pat me on the back moment.
Yeah.
I see people go, oh man, people are doing this now. And I look at my partner and I go, you mean the thing we did in 2003? They're doing it now? Yeah, I know. But it was like 10 years where we were doing it, where people telling me I was stupid. You can't train like that. You can't do that. What is this thing for? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing these drills? Why just get in and beat the crap out of each other? Why are you doing it?
It's like if you look at the name Fight Science, there's something to that name.
I hope so.
The science of fighting. That's right. Like if you really think about the stuff that you were doing, what you've done, all ties into that.
Well, I try to evolve. Like when I first started, I didn't know how to wrap hands, and I was horrible at it. Julian's like, the first time I wrapped his hands, the hand went numb. Now people like I have doctors and people go, man, you're amazing at wrapping hand. I'm like, yeah, I spent a lot of time studying different people's techniques and like getting it right and finding out why do you wrap hands? Oh, it's to brace these metacarpals and certain things. And you got to brace the thumb and blah, 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 blah. And how do I do that? What's the best way? Oh, what does that guy do? Oh, that's an interesting technique. Let me try that. And to where now I'm very good at it. And I don't never had anybody break a hand. And like, I've had like one broken hand in like 20 years. And because I apply science. And if someone comes to me, and that's the big thing that I try to tell these guys, I'm like, if there's a new technique, if there's something I don't know, bring it to me. Yeah. I'm wide open. It doesn't mean I'm going to accept it, because a lot of times guys come to me and go, oh, I went to this place and they showed me this new amazing technique. And I go, that's an old technique that I threw out because it doesn't work. And here's why it doesn't work. Oh, it worked for me. Yeah, it worked for a second because you weren't used to it.
Are you dealing with TikTok techniques?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Oh, the YouTube. Or I'm like, oh, that is a great technique, but not for MMA because.
Not for somebody that's punching back.
Right, or whatever, right? Yeah. So I get that a lot. I think what has evolved is that people are learning, because I've said this forever. Like you can look at my website in 2003. People always, I think there were always two camps of MMA. There was the camp that says I do my jujitsu over here and my striking over here. Mm-hmm. And MMA is a combination of striking and groundwork. And there was the other group, the Lions Dens, the Shark Tanks, that were like, we don't do jujitsu, we don't do wrestling, we don't do kickboxing, we do MMA. We put on MMA gloves and we beat the crap out of each other MMA all day long. And I'm like, yes, you're both correct, but both of you are wrong. For me, it's like I said earlier, it's 5 things. You have to know wrestling or some form of takedown. Judo could be wrestling. You have to know some sort of submission grappling. You have to know boxing. You have to know some form of traditional martial arts or kickboxing. It could be Muay Thai. It could be Kempo. It could be Jeet Kune Do. It could be some sort of like kicking and elbowing art. And you have to know MMA, which is the transitions. And I think if you just do one of those, if you just do just Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, you're going to be lacking. In transitions, you're going to be lacking in ground and pound. Yeah. Like I have ground and pound classes at my class. I have wall classes at my class, at my gym. But also if you just do that, you're going to get some black belt in jiu-jitsu who also does that, who's going to be able to whoop your ass in jiu-jitsu because they're going to be able to bring it to where they want to be. But I know guys that are world-class kickboxers and world-class jiu-jitsu guys who can't get the fight to the ground.
Yeah.
Or who can't stop the fight who can't stop a guy from just hiding his arms and elbowing him. And you're like, you're one of the best jiu-jitsu guys, one of the best kickbox. You're great at these two things, and MMA's eluding you. And I know people that are badasses. They're just so good at transitioning and all that. But it's the fun. I'm watching, like, God, but their arm bar is not technical. They would be so much better if they learn that strangle, that choke, whatever, technically, but it's just all grit and repetition. And I feel like where things have gotten better is people are coming along to that. People are realizing that you don't have to beat the shit out of each other all day long and get concussions in order to get better. It is necessary sometimes to get a little tough. You got to get tough. You can't just go in there and knock it. But that shouldn't be your main focus. People are learning that the transitions and the drilling of those transitions are more important. But the biggest thing I think is that the biggest leaps are we're seeing athletes and we're seeing people who are, the strength and conditioning is becoming a big thing. Yeah. And that's where the biggest changes have happened. And not all of it's good. Some of people I think are doing strength and conditioning and in my opinion, doing it wrong, but they're doing strength and conditioning. Back when we were going to Mexico and whatever, strength and conditioning was like, I ran a mile. Like people did some push-ups. People didn't.
Well, it's science now. It goes back to your brand, right? Science. It truly is a science now with nutrition, strength and conditioning. It's all science now.
Yeah, and the other one is that we're still way behind. But this is for the science. This is something that I really developed. Like people always tell me like, you need to write a book about this. I'm like, it'd be this big, but it'd be very thin. But the weight cut, I would again. Just throwing out numbers, even the greatest gyms in the world, I talk to these people, I would say 90 to 95% of people, coaches, fighters, whatever, have no idea how to weight cut to this day. And the biggest problem with that is this thing that we do a lot as humans, but we do a lot here, I would say in in America is we have this idea of I've done it this way forever, therefore it's correct. Wrestling coaches are always like, I used to cut 97 pounds in an hour. I know what I'm doing. And you're like, yeah. And that's why you're crippled. Yeah. And that's why you had to go to the hospital. And yes, you are a tough son of a bitch and you did it wrong. And you did it because you were just gritted it out. And it's like, I could have taught you a way that you would have been able to do that and no problem. But there's this mentality that I did it like this, and that's the way it's done. And I'm going to show you how to do it that way. And that's how you're going to do it because I did it that way. And it's wrong. And there's such an easy way to cut weight if you know what you're doing. If you have a little bit of discipline and you follow the right path, it's an easy way to cut weight. You're not going to end up in the hospital. You're barely going to be dehydrated. And you can, I think I've had like 3 or 4 people in like the last 10 years miss weight. And those people didn't follow what I did at all, weren't around, or women sometimes have a harder time because women's biology is different with their, you know.
Ryan, that's true, right? Like Ian's guys always make weight.
No. I actually don't think you guys ever miss weight.
No, but there are some very reputable gyms. Think about several other fighters have missed weight.
Yeah, it's because
I didn't like.
There's a very specific science to it. My wife works in the medical field and she was a science teacher. She was a biology teacher, physiology teacher. I'm super science minded, always have been. So I literally listen to the science and I mean, I know it sounds goofy. People think you don't really do that. Like when I was talking about wrapping hands. No, I really study things. I really sit down and study them.
You geek out on that stuff. In my opinion. I could tell that you just like hone in, like I'm going to learn to do this and you're going to do it really well.
And look at it and go, what is this person telling me? Because the same thing, I know guys that are hand wrappers that have been doing it forever. They're like, people are like, oh, that's the iconic so-and-so. And I watch it, he goes, he does it wrong. He does it wrong because he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know the reason.
The why.
He followed somebody else who did it and he's great.
He knows how, but not the why.
He knows the how, but not the why. Yeah. And it's like, if he knew the why, he would change this couple things to make the wrap better.
I'm feeling really stupid right now, Ryan.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I used to wrap hands a little bit and...
You probably didn't know the why, right? You knew the way someone taught you once.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you did.
100%.
But that's the thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way we do.
Professional.
But that's a pass. But that's also the way we do things. A lot of times we learn it from somebody else, but we don't think, well, maybe we learned it wrong, or not even wrong. I always try to tell this because I know people think I'm a pompous asshole, and I'm trying not to be. I don't think things are wrong necessarily. I just think there's a better way.
100%. And that's usually true with everything almost. You know what I mean?
It's all like guys get stuck in their ways, but it's all about evolution. I kind of have a saying like, you got to stay hungry. You got to start, fight for your position. Because you look at these guys that have, become champs or got fat, dumb, and happy, didn't evolve. What's happened to them?
Right.
They're yesterday's news.
Well,
you have to evolve if you want to stay on top.
And that's the hardest thing to do. Again, another thing I said, literally this week, somebody was asking me in the gym about something about, and I said, well, I go, 2 things you're going to read. Because somebody said, how do you game plan? And I said, I that's something where I've evolved on. I don't game plan like I used to game plan. I game plan in a different way and I don't completely game plan, which is funny because I used to be all about what is this guy doing? What are we going to do? And how are we going to counter that? And I realized a couple things happen with that. Number one is sometimes that causes the anxiety that I'm trying to not get because they're looking for something. They're wanting something to happen. And so watch this guy's tape. This guy throws the right hand every time. This guy throws the right hand every time. Now, what happens when he doesn't throw the right hand? My guy's out there frozen, waiting for the right hand, getting hit by the left. Okay. And so what I need to do is I'll let him watch tape once, get a look at your guy, see who he is, see what he does. Don't waste a lot of time on it. Don't obsess about it. I will look and I'll pull somebody aside and go, throw the right hand. I don't tell my guy where he's throwing the right hand. I just make my guy throw the right hand and we drill it. And that's not all we do, but I mix that in there so that he gets the reps of doing it without thinking about it.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
But the other thing about that is that sometimes people change. But the fact is that most of the time people don't. You can watch world-class best fighters of all time, watch them 10 years ago and watch them now, and they're essentially the same fighter. And you're like, wow, this guy still hasn't learned jiu-jitsu in 10 years? This guy still brawls every time he gets hit? Really? Really? At 10 years later, this guy's still doing the same thing? And I've had fighters that left me that I'm like, you got worse. Or the thing I told you need to work on, you never worked on. And I also realized that not only are we set in our ways, hard to teach an old dog new tricks, and also do we want to actually step out of our comfort zone and try something new? But again, so many coaches aren't training the athlete. They're doing what they think. They're doing the thing they know.
Yep.
So like I'm watching someone going, this guy, I have a fighter that he's incredible everywhere, never had good defensive striking, loses split decisions, because he gets in brawls and gets hit a lot. Even though he lands a lot, gets hit a lot. And then the judges are like, who did more damage, whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, all that dude needs to do is learn defensive striking and he'd be world champion. And I'm like, in the last 5 years, no coach has worked on your defensive. So either no coach worked on your defensive striking, which means they don't recognize it, they don't know it, they don't know how to teach your defensive striking, or they're teaching it to you poorly, or they're teaching it to you the right way and you aren't doing it because your brain is stuck. And that happens all the time. And it's like, so finding a coach that actually knows your flaws and knows how to fix your flaws, and also a fighter who's willing to do that, those are the dime a dozen. I mean, those are the diamonds in the rough. Those are not the dime a dozen, right? Those aren't the ones you're gonna get. Those are the hard ones to get. And it's like world-class people don't change their stripes. Well,
listening is an amazing skill, and not a lot of people like to listen. You know what I mean?
And like we were talking about earlier, the mental thing. I still don't know. I know I can identify the problems. People don't want to hear it. They don't want the honesty. When I say you've got anxiety, you've got a general anxiety disorder. Do you have problems on planes? Yes, I do. I know. When you go to the doctor, do you freak out because you think you're going to have cancer? Yes, I know. Because I see it in your fighting. But they don't want to hear that because they think that means I'm calling them a pussy.
Yeah.
They think, oh, I'm mentally weak. What am I? Pussy? No. If your bench press sucks, you do bench press.
Well, I think
like this is how it works. It doesn't mean I'm calling you a pussy because your squat's great, your bench isn't good. Work on your bench if you want to be a bodybuilder. Like that's how it works. But how do you do? What are the exercises to do that? I can't. I'm trying. It's really hard to get people's that muscle's the hardest muscle to train
by far.
Well, I think the highest performing people are those that want to learn. Right? That want to work on those weaknesses and want to be the best, most well-rounded athlete, right? Yeah. I think a lot of people just have a hard time sort of like getting in that mindset.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't approachable, right? Like,
and they're not self-aware.
Well, there's the 7 habits of highly effective people. One is seek first to understand before being understood. So I really embrace that. So to me, a great athlete should seek to understand what his coach is telling him and the why behind it before he's trying to get around, well, this is why I'm doing it.
Right.
Understand what the coach is saying to you.
Yeah.
And the why.
No, and on the opposite end of that, I think I truly believe I'm a great communicator in that I understand all these things. I can say what I mean very well. I'm very good at putting together logical arguments. I spoke on stage for 30 years. My wife and I, we have a really good way of communicating. We're, hold on, what are you saying? What are you trying to say? Okay, let me not interpret. Let me understand. Do you mean that literally? Do you mean that figuratively? Cool. I reacted wrongly. I apologize for that. Let me step back. I'm good with all that. But the one thing I'm really not good at with my fighters, and I'm told this all the time, and I'll admit this to all of you there.
Here it comes.
I'm not good. I am not good at listening to bullshit. I'm not good at listening. And this does happen with my wife and my daughter. It's a little different. Like, and I'm not trying to sound like some sort of weird misogynistic guy, but women and men do have some differences. It's a very common thing where like my daughter will be like, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. I'm like, all right, cool. What you need to do is you got to go this, you got to do this, then come over here. And she goes, I don't want a solution. I just want you to hear me vent. And I go, fine. But if in next week you vent about the same shit, I'm not gonna listen. Because if you vent about a problem and you don't fix the problem, then you're just complaining. So what happens is, and I've been told this many times, but finally succinctly by one of the fighters. One of the fighters said, the problem is a lot of times their issues with these fighters isn't correct. They're logically incorrect. They're acting emotionally. They're making a stupid decision. And they don't want to talk to you because they know you're going to give them the logical answer that they don't want to hear.
Sure. Yeah.
So they avoid. And he goes, and that's because you don't ever fucking let them get away with it. And I'm like, well, I don't want to let them get away. You have to let them get away with it and then find a way to fix it later. Yeah. When they come to you and go, coach, I need this, this, this. And you go, well, you're not doing this. You're not doing that. You're not doing that. He's like, you're always right. They don't want to know that. They just want you to hear them.
Yeah.
And I just am so working on letting them talk without solving their problem.
I feel like I'm looking in the mirror a little bit. You know? Yeah, because for me, everything needs to make sense. And sometimes, people say something and I immediately have to be like, do.
Yeah.
Like, and it would be a much smarter, long-term, more beneficial approach to kind of hear people out and kind of work through it.
Yeah.
Versus giving what I believe is the quick solution to it. You know what I mean?
What I'm trying to do now is ask. I'm getting much better at it, but it still takes me a while.
But
I ask questions.
Wait, I need to stop you. I am proud of you to be 54 years old and to be willing to change and learn and acknowledge it. It's a big deal.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, but it's science. You got to evolve. You got to learn when new information presents itself. What I'll try to do now, and I do this also in whether I used to have a political podcast, like when I'm talking politics or I'm talking science or I'm talking fighting or I'm talking whatever, is what I try to do now is ask the questions that I know is going to lead them to, that will ask them to honestly, but also instead of saying, well, when you do that, this happens. I go, well, what do you think will happen if you do that?
Yeah.
And they go, well, this. And I go, and if you do that, then what? Well, I don't know. I hadn't thought that far. Well, let's think through it. What would happen next? Oh, well, I guess this. Oh, yeah. That's probably not a good idea then. Yeah, you're right. Oh, they came up to, whereas me going, if you do that, this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, bad idea.
Yeah.
That just shuts them down.
Yeah. You got to make people be a part of it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people do have to feel like they're heard. And
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm really bad at that. And I'm trying to get better.
I think I have a little bit of that too. Like, I'm just such a hard charger. I just want to get shit done. I have so much going on. I don't have what I call is time for fucking bullshit or working through stuff. But sometimes if you really want to fix a problem, you got to have the time and you got to have the patience.
Right. Because it ultimately, it might, what I'm accusing them of doing, like with my daughter or whatever, is also what I'm doing, in that if I keep doing this, it's not solving the problem anyway. Yeah. Because even though I've already solved the problem, they haven't accepted the solution.
Right.
So it's going to come up again anyway. And it's going to come up and probably bite me in the ass because they're going to leave or they're going to be mad at me or whatever. So I'm like, maybe I just let it take a little longer than I wanted to, but maybe the double time it takes to get it done gets it solved. Whereas if I keep doing it my way, it just never gets solved because they're not listening. They're not interested.
Yeah,
or,
I always say there's a smarter way to do things. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't always go with what you think is best. Sometimes there's always just a smarter way to do it.
100%.
People are just different. Some people can take that more of harshness and just straight bottom line and listen, and some people need to feel heard or whatever it may be.
No, like I've run a business for 30 years and I've just learned through the different employees that have gone, like everybody needs a little something different. And at the end of the day, man, you've got to, you're a comedian, right? So you got to give the audience what they want, you know what I mean, to entertain them. It's no different from building an employee or an athlete. You got to give them what they want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And or at least part of it, at least let them feel heard and at least hear them out and at least entertain their ideas. I mean, I do that in every other aspect. Like I really do. Like if they have a gripe with the way we're training or whatever, I always let people show me a new technique. Which is always a funny thing when people go, like I've had people go, well, sports evolve, coach. You've been doing this a long time. And I go, oh, cool. Show me the new punch. Is there a new magic supersonic flying punch that I don't know about?
I just keep calling the TikTok generation, right?
Yeah.
Everything's on TikTok. Everybody knows better. Like everybody goes to TikTok and social media for their advice, and all that is like, bullshit anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, is there? Yeah, it's always like, what are these new? As far as I know, you can only throw your kicks and your knees and your elbows and your punches and your arm bars and your chokes so many ways. Sure, maybe there's has wrestling evolved that much? Is there a brand new supersonic takedown that I've not heard of? Show it to me. I want to learn it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that. Okay.
Listen, I think you picked one of the most challenging industries, but I mean, you've had your fingers in so many different things. What's your true one love? You had to pick one thing, whether it's being a comedian,
filmmaking.
Yeah.
I mean, but Ryan and I were talking earlier, like I'm in the middle of making a feature film that's taken that has an incredible cast. It's an incredible story. Like people are like, oh, people could win Academy Awards for this. And because it's an independent film, raising this tiny amount of money that I need to raise for it, tiny amount for film, has been nearly impossible. Partly it's the ever since COVID and then the strikes and then and now the fake tariff crap and all this stuff. It's been really impossible because the industry is just like freaking out about everything. That it's like all this stuff is making it really hard to raise money. But being on set and then editing, and then when I'm done and watching this and having, you know, I have a scene with a couple famous actors that as a test scene, or not a test, I shot a bunch of stuff, but I use this as a test scene to try to raise the rest of the money for the film and show it to people and have people like crying and going, watching us this big of a screen. And I'm like, that to me is like, I was able to put this whole thing together. I mean, directing is like coaching. It's I got to get all the pieces. I got to get the producers and the editor. Everyone's got to be on the same page. The actors have to be there. Everyone has to trust me. I have to trust my instincts. And it's, you know, so for me, that's my most interesting. And it's, you know, it's comedy was like my first love. And it's a thing that I'm pretty good at, but I did it for a long time. I did it for 30 years. I made a living at it for 30. And I'm like, I've done a lot of stuff with it and I love it. I don't think I'll ever not want to get on stage, but I'm like, I feel like I've done that. I want to do, you know, this, the film thing is like all of it combined. It's like coaching fighters. It's like doing, it's writing, it's delivering, it's everything. It's comedy, it's voiceover, it's fighting, it's everything in one that I get to create this world. I don't know. It's just that to me, it's so much. So
do you think the general public really understands what goes into that? Like behind the scenes to have a crew and to do all of that stuff? Because I've been on a few sets right behind the scenes. There's so many moving parts, so challenging to put everybody together, to come together to make a finished work product.
No, I think, no, I definitely don't think so, especially because nowadays everybody does their own thing, DIY. Everyone's got their iPhone, everyone's got, and some people do some incredible work. I'm not, you know, poo-pooing like this, the 18-year-old kid who does this incredible thing on his computer and you're like, wow, some 18-year-old kid made that crazy crash scene or whatever on his computer. I mean, people can do crazy stuff, but to make something that you're going to see on a theater. Now, first off, the industry is also, as all industries, but especially the film industry, is very full of itself and can be very pretentious and can be very, and we also don't need all those things. You don't need 9 assistants getting you 9 different coffees and, you know, all the crazy nonsense that they do. You know, you don't always need, you know, when I go on these, I'm like, why did this film cost $300 million? Like there was a movie I saw, it was like a $400 million movie. I'm like, that was a $20 million movie. You didn't need to do all this extra crap. You didn't, you know, but that being said, 20 million, 50 million, that's a lot of money. And why does it cost that? Because you need the precision of, you know, cameras and lighting, and each one of those people has a job that, you know, that is so detailed and so specific, like lighting, like gaffers. I mean, that's a whole other thing that I don't understand. I get it a little bit, but I wouldn't know how to specific, like I just go, could we get it to look like this? And the guy's like, bring in one of these. And it's like, that's what I want, you know? And it's like, that's a whole art form, man. And it's like, that guy needs 4 guys with a ladder and the thing and the, you know, and it's like, and so then when the time you're done, you got 100 people on set.
Well, we just had a boxing show in Vegas that we supported, and just it was amazing, just the production behind this big budget boxing show. Freaking crazy. Yeah,
and when they get it right, I mean, I will say, as much as I have my sometimes, you know, we all beefs with like how the UFC does stuff and whatever. When you're on and you guys know, being on having your own show, there are shows that are run better. There are shows that are run, even the best run shows have their problems. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand because they have so many people doing this. The UFC never misses the timing. I'm on an amateur show where they're like, show starts at 7. And then everyone's in the back going 7:45.
Yeah.
Right. And then
I feel you on that.
And then, right. Yeah. And but the UFC's like your fight 8. Yeah, I'm fight 8. You'll be on at 9:12. 9:12. Huh? Sure enough.
9:12.
Boom. And and it's like they have it. They know this one. If it goes long, if it goes short, it's going to be here. If it goes long, it's going to be the longest it can go is here, which means we have this 1 minute buffer to do this. And if we don't, we're going to go over and ESPN ends at 6:59. Pay-per-view starts at 7, and we can't go 7:05 on the undercard because we can't bleed into the pay-per-view. So this fight has to be done, whether there's 10 undercard fights or 5 undercard fights. It has to be done at this time. And what if they all go decision? It still has to be another, and they do it. And that
got the science down.
That is,
UFC is on another level, bro.
I mean, they have handlers and people. I mean, it's a huge organization. You can't expect people to, to have that many people on a small
even from a UNF perspective. I mean, we have a decent crew that works with UNF, but just the controlled chaos that we have to deal with, I couldn't imagine like at that level what the UFC does.
Yeah, and and that's why it also, I think, it goes a little overboard, but that's one of the reasons I think Dana White is so weird and controlling about if somebody pulls out or somebody gets in, he gets so crazy and angry about this guy, it's like, well, the guy broke his leg. He can't fight. But I get it because it's like that disrupted this perfect card and this perfect thing.
Promotion is, and I don't even want to compare this to the UFC. I'm not trying to do that, but all the chaos behind the scenes with fighters falling out, not making weight, and all the different challenges it's freaking nuts.
And there's a lot of money and a lot of time riding on it and all this sort of stuff. And you're like, and it always seems to me that and you would know better than I would, but it feels like it's always when it rains, it pours.
For sure.
100%.
When one dude misses weight, 5 guys miss weight and 2 guys come down with the flu. And you're like, really? I went, and it's like, and I've had those shows where they're like, where everyone's like, why did this promoter put on 25 fights? We're going to be here till tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And everyone's pissed and everyone's annoyed. And I'm like, so people are like, how many fights you got tonight? I go, I got 2. And they go, which numbers? 1 and 25. and they're like, people are like, this sucks. But then the next fight, they go, you know what? We're only going to get 12. And 6 fall out day of, and they've got a show that lasts an hour. And you're like, that's why they did 25, because they expected there to be 15 or whatever. Yeah.
Well, that's what he'll say. I'm like, hey, I was looking at fights. Hey, we got this many. Well, if things are like normal, we'll drop 3 and this and that. Like, yeah, there's no science to it in that sense. Like, you can't control the uncontrollable.
You don't know what's coming.
I feel for this guy. The shit that he has to deal with, right? With all this, like, it's such a challenge.
Yeah, I mean,
so fun though.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's but it is very difficult to have a show. But I commend you guys because you guys in a short period of time put on, have risen to the occasion and are putting on a show that people want to be part of, that runs on time, that is the production value, that values the fighters. And I think that bleeds into, I mean, there are shows that the production value isn't great, the venue isn't great, but sure shit, they are on time and they run really well. Mm-hmm. And there are shows I've been on that are beautiful. Oh, all the like, and yet we know it's going to start 5 hours late. And you're like, can we just get this together? And that's the balance. And you guys do a really nice balance of having the bells and whistles, having all that, and the timing, and it's never going to be perfect. There's going to be days where where the show starts, but you guys do a good job because the difference is you guys, I feel, I mean, I think I can speak definitively, empirically, that you guys truly care about your show and you guys truly care about the fighters and you guys want to make it that level. And that shows because fighters go, oh, I want to fight for that organization because you're doing the stuff that they want. That because you said the Instagram and the TikTok and the fighters want that. They want to feel like they're a superstar.
Yeah. Well, look, I feel like we're just trying to not only build our brand but build their brand, right? And we look at that we're on this journey together and we owe that to them. We don't want them to feel like they're just a number to up next. So if we were like trying to cash out, we would minimize the production. We'd take away a lot of these bells and whistles so we could try to monetize. But for us, it's truly about building the brand together, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, like saying what a lot of the athletes have been able to achieve. Some guys that started fighting with us barely were known. Now you look at them now and they feel like, wow, I feel special. Like people recognize me like, oh, you're a UNF fighter. I saw you on UNF. So it gives us extreme level of pride, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think especially with the regional promotion, the people that don't put as much money behind it to say, or, social media guy. We have him on retainer or whatever, but he's always posting great content on the fighters. He's at the events, catching every knockout, catching all that stuff. Which I don't think a lot of the regional promotions kind of do that or get it in real time. But like Elijah Duke, for instance, had that sick punch that finishes the fight for him, and that probably, I don't know, I'm just ballparking, but almost 1 million views probably on just the reel on Instagram or something like that.
Now the downside is now I can't get a fight. Okay.
Yeah.
No, totally. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, and I'm not saying Elijah's not good. Elijah's getting his blue belt tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or Sunday. People are like, Elijah's not a blue belt. I'm like, no, he doesn't do jiu-jitsu very often. And I'm like, I mean, he does, but he's just, but he's been training off and on for, I mean, not mostly on, but for a couple years. But he's not like, you know, he has a lot of learning to do. He's still got a lot. He still gets, you know, he still gets in trouble with guys like Zane and guys that you know, that maybe sometimes don't even perform as well. Not call it Zane as well, but I've got a lot of guys his size that are super competitive with him. But now the thing is, we were just talking about this just the other day. I'm like, now everyone is going to go, because he looked so
good.
He was just like, bah, and everyone was like, that looked like you just got off the couch and just said, I'm going to knock this guy out and walk away. And you just kind of walked off, and everyone's like, you look like a Terminator. And I'm like, you're going to have a hard time getting a fight now. And he goes, yeah, I know. And I'm like, but it doesn't mean it'll take some time. He's already taken a couple tough fights. I'm like, if you look at your record, I'm like, you're 3-2 or 2-2 now, or 3-2, I think. I'm like,
I think it's 3-2.
But
yeah.
I'm like, and those two losses were, both of them were pretty close. One could have gone the other. A lot of people thought it could have gone the other way, but they were close fights where guys wrestled you and held you down and one guy, he actually got knocked out, but it was an early mistake, and it was after the guy wrestled him and they stood up and they both threw a punch and they both landed and he fell down, and then the other one got wrestled. And I'm like, so he's not some, you know, unbeatable but I'm like, that is going to make a lot of people go,
I don't know if I want to fight this guy.
Yeah. No, he looked so good. I mean, really, if you look at that, they both look like pro level guys in there, to be honest with you. That's why I trip out on a lot of the rising stars. Like the way that they look like pros on the regional circuit throughout the US.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, here's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize. I try to tell these guys this and they don't quite get it. And it's not that it's not coming up it's definitely coming up in the rest of the world. So it's not as much as it was 5-10 years ago. But California is a different level.
Yeah.
Yes.
On everything. Like just in jiu-jitsu, we have more world-class, world champion jiu-jitsu people with gyms in California and Southern California on top of that than they do anywhere else in the world, including Brazil. I mean, in San Diego, there's the Ribeiro brothers and Barrett Yoshida have gyms next door to each other. They share a wall. I'm like, you got Barrett Yoshida and Salo and Shanji Ribeiro in the same strip mall. And a few blocks down is Atos, which is, you know, I mean, like we have crazy world-class trainers in here. And it's like, and then the fight level is so high here that I tell these guys, I'm like, the difference between pro and amateur in terms of skill level is almost zero. You're going to find guys at pro that aren't very good. You're going to find guys in amateur that probably could compete at the UFC. And people think it's that much a big of a difference of a jump. It isn't. It comes down to the experience, and it comes down to the mindset.
100%, man. I agree.
And you see these guys, and you look at them, you're like, that guy, skill-wise, that guy could probably be in the UFC tomorrow. And he's still an amateur with 4 fights. You know, and there's some people that they got to get 20 amateur fights to get the jitters out and go pro, but their skill level's there. And I tell people this, I'm like, a good amateur in California would beat most pros around the rest of the world. Even in places like Florida, where they've got American Top Team and all that sort of stuff. It's just a different level. And I know I'm going to get flack for that, but you know, if you're like a state champion in California, you're probably like amateur. You're probably a mid-level pro already in so many places.
I'll catch that shit with you also. I totally agree with you.
I mean, we talked about it.
No, I'm a stalker. I watch what other promotions around the country are doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I watch everything and I'm just like, yeah, I think the guys out here are on another level.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I have and obviously, again, there's still sometimes skill isn't everything, right?
True.
And so, but I've got that one girl. I'm trying to get her back. I have a young girl named Alexia Fontaine. She's from France. Well, she's from Reunion, which is a tiny little island outside of South Africa. But she came here 19. She was 19, no MMA fights, had a few Muay Thai fights in her little island of Reunion, which is like, literally, it's like a tiny island, like off Tanzania or something. It's like, you know, and French citizen, because it's a French-owned island. And she came out here on visa. So you get 3 months vacation visa. Then she has to go back for 2 weeks, renew it. So she came out for 9 months. Basically, I guess it was about 10 or 11 months because of the time off. Mm-hmm. But she was here she trained for 9 months, 3 months at a time, gone, 3 months at a time, gone, 3 months at a time. And in that time, she got 5-1 and 4 belts, including state championship twice, at a weight class that she doesn't even walk around at 115, and she walks around at 113 at 19 years old in like 9 months. And she looks like she looks like people were like, oh, is she 13? Like the child, like, and like this cute little, hi, how are you? And like this the most unassuming little like, hi, nice to meet you. Oh, and I have girls out, whatever that girl, because she overstayed her visa to win her last title, and now she can't come back in. So she's been gone for like a year. But I get girls all the time going, like fighters going, what happened to Alexia? I watched her and like she would shoulder people and stomp on their feet and like all this crazy, like how was she so good? Like whatever. And I'm like, she's just a crazy student. But I told her that. I'm like, she went back to France and her and her dad would travel. Because they're EU. So she'd go to Thailand, she'd go to Japan, and they just travel. Like, and her dad does like, handyman work, and they just kind of almost like gypsies or whatever. They just travel and do. And she's, we talk all the time, and she'll be like, Coach, I was in Thailand, and I like kind of whooped everybody's ass. And I'm like, and she's like, and I'm just an amateur fighter with 5 fights or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And she only trained for 9 months. I'm like, first off, she's just, but I tell her, I'm like, the level of people you're fighting and training with here in California, it's different. Even Thailand, even Japan, even, there's great fighters everywhere, but I'm like, there's so many.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
That's the difference.
Of how many good amateurs or fighters are here. I'm sure you got a couple of guys from the Midwest or whatever that are just as good as some of the top guys here. But the top guys here, there's just a long list of guys with so much skill and like
facts
that are really freaking good.
Right. It's like, okay, there's 100 fighters here. 80 of them are there.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, yeah, and there might be a few that are way up here, but like the better than average is like almost everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas like you go somewhere else, there's those high level guys, but everyone else is right? They're just not. Because those are the ones that are just naturally good or whatever. But here there's just the level is so high, and there's just so many. The downside to California is it's so expensive to live.
It's crazy to live here, bro. The taxes and just everything else.
So it's like you're trying to pay to. You gotta work 3 jobs to pay. If you live in some place where it's rent is $300, like you can train all the time. You can have a job at Starbucks and pay your bills. Here you gotta have like a career, and then do you have time to train?
Yeah.
And so that's the downside to California. But man, the world class training, swing a cat and hit a world class gym in California.
Yeah. No, that's true. Well, bro, this has been freaking amazing. I think that we didn't even get through half of what we wanted to talk about. So we're going to have you on again.
Sure.
Like this was freaking amazing.
Oh, it was fun.
Definitely. Actually, I agree with a lot of things Ian said, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised. Like,
you think you wouldn't?
No, I thought I would. Well, I don't know. I never got to really sit down and talk to you like this. We had brief conversations over the phone and everything.
But I feel there's so many other. I think we just got through chapter 1 with you today. I feel like there's so many more chapters, so we're gonna have to do this again.
Yeah,
please. That'd be fun.
I definitely want to go on the political side, your views and all that kind of stuff that you think about.
I don't know that you want to do that.
No, listen, I'll just be here to listen and ask you questions here and there. But I definitely want to hear about that. That'd be great.
No, but we really appreciate you, man. And you really are a true class act to work with. I love the passion and the drive that you have for your athletes, because not every coach is really like that. Some of these guys look at their guys as numbers. And I know for a fact you don't. I love your passion. And, again, on the next card, feel free to yell at me. Feel free to yell at the judges. If they don't get it right, feel free to, do whatever you want to do.
No, honestly, I yell to the ether. I'm going to be honest. Like I just, it's just frustration and venting. And usually you'll notice I'll be like, and then I'll be like, Good fight, man. Good job. Like I never disrespect
Never.
the other fighter, the other coach, because it's not on there, and they fought their ass off. And
it's kind of funny anyway.
And if it's close, it was close. I mean, come on. Like, I mean, it's not their fault. Like, they wanted to win, and they probably thought they won. Like, you know, I mean, that's fine.
Listen, don't stop being you.
It's an entertainment business.
At the beginning, I used to sort of feel responsible for that kind of stuff. Now I'm like, it's beyond my control, whatever. Just, it's all part of as this guy teaches me, it's all the fight game, Dad. It's all part of the fight game. So.
And he doesn't ever cross the line. But, you know, when there's a close decision, you're just excited for him to walk in. You're like, all right, what's going to happen?
No, I actually love it.
Well, yeah. And likewise, thank you guys for also being passionate about the game and the fighters and caring about the fighters and caring about the sport, because we need more of that. And that's literally what makes the sport good. And that's what makes people thrive when they know that they're gonna be taken care of when they fight, you know, and they're not treated as a number, you know. That's difficult. So
well, we take it as our responsibility, but we can't do it without, you know, partners like you guys and a lot of the other amazing coaches and athletes we work with. That's for sure. So
and likewise.
Let's do some big things.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.